Hello everybody, in this video we are going to continue our conversation about how to factor a basic quadratic expression. So in some of the previous videos we talked about how to find the greatest common factor, how to find the number, how to find which variable and how many to take out, and how to factor out or when to factor out a negative. We also did a quick review on factoring by grouping because that's what we're using to factor. Now, if you remember from what I said before, factoring by grouping requires 4 terms in our expression. And a lot of the problems that we're going to be looking at today have 3. So this video is going to focus on how to expand an expression that has 3 terms, turn it into 4 terms, so we can then use factoring by grouping. So there are several ways to do this, but I have provided these little X's right here so you can use them. Some people do like to use them to organize their numbers and to know what they're looking for, and some people don't. So it's completely up to you whether you use it. So the first thing we're going to do in this video is talk about what we need to do to go from 3 to 4. Okay, so I'm actually going to walk you through this one that's already set up for us. So let's pretend for a second that we don't know this. Okay, we have 3 terms. So this is our 1, which is our A value. This is 14, which is our B value. And 40 is our C value. So a couple things that I want to remind you about A, B, and C. This is standard form. So your A is always going to be the number that has the x squared. Your B is always going to be the number that has just the x. And your C is going to be your constant. It is the number in the expression with no variable. So it's very important that you know that most of these will be in standard form. So you could just say A, B, and C. But from time to time, they might not. So it's really important that you know that this is the form we need to look at for us to do that. So if you look at some of the examples, they're going to be talking about A, B, and C. These are the numbers that we're talking about, and this is where you need to look to find them. So let's go ahead and talk about this one. So it says multiply the A value with the C value and list all the factors. So if I'm going to do the first example, I'm going to multiply 1 times 40. So on this top of this X, I'm going to put A times C. So our A is 1, our C is 40. So we're actually doing 1 times 40. Well, 1 times 40 is 40. So the number that we care about is the number 40. And this is the one we're going to use to list all the factors. So if you forgot how to do this, I'm going to show you really quickly how to list all your factors. I'm going to use this space over here on the side. And I always start with 1 in the number. 1 times 40 gives me 40. All right. Next comes 2. I know that 2 times 20 gives me 40. 3 does not divide into 40, not evenly, but 4 does. 4 times 10. 5 divides into 40. 5 times 8. 6 does not. 7 does not. 8 does 5 times. So I'm actually going to stop right here because I have all my lists. Because once I go from 5 and to 8, 8 is already on the list. So that tells me that I've already added all the factors. Now, this is what I need you to do. So when we fill out this X, we take the A and the C, multiply them to get 40. But the B value goes in the middle. So I'm going to put a plus. I'm going to put B right here so you know where this number is coming from. I'm going to put plus 14x. Now, we probably don't need to include the x, but I'm going to put that there because I want to show you something. All right, so this is what I need you to do. I need you to circle the last sign. So we need to pick 2 numbers to replace 14 with. Because right now, if I leave the 14 in the middle, I only have 3 terms. But if I can find 2 numbers to replace the 14 with, then it will go from being 3 terms to being 4 terms. Now, I know you can already see what we're going here, but I'm going to explain to you why we're using 10 and 4. So I circled this one right here, and I'm going to draw an arrow to the 14. I'm looking for two numbers that multiply to be 40, but add up. See this plus sign? I'm looking for two numbers that add up to be 14. So we're going to look at this list right here. 1 plus 40 gives me 41. I can't use that one. 2 plus 20 gives me 22. I'm not looking for that. 4 plus 10 gives me 14. So remember what I'm asking you. I'm looking for two numbers that add up to be 14. 4 and 10. So in order to get a positive 14, I need a positive 4x and a positive 10x. And I'm going to show you how to check your work. We need to be able to multiply these two numbers to get this one. And then I need to be able to combine them to get this one. So I'm going to grab my calculator. I want to remind you that I'm using a TI Nspire just to do some basic work here. So what I'm asking you to do here is take your 4 and your 10. 4 times 10 does give me a positive 40, which is the number on top. And then if I do 4 plus 10, it gives me, let's do that, okay. Notice it gives me a positive 14. So when I'm picking my numbers, I need to make sure that not only, if I'm going to replace the 14, I'm going to replace it with a positive, numbers that combine to be positive 14. So it's not just the number, it's also the sign. So a positive 10 and a positive 4 will replace the 14. So I'm going to draw these little arrows so you see where they come from. And then from here, we can actually factor by grouping, because now we have 4 terms. And then I would factor it from here. So in this video, we're not actually going to do the factoring all the way. I'm going to show you that one in the next video. But right now, we're just talking about how to go from 3 to 4. So let's look at this example right here. I'm going to put the understood 1. This is my A. This is my B. This is my C. Okay? And so I'm going to circle this, and I'm going to draw the arrow so you understand what we're looking for. So remember what we said. The top is going to be A times C. So A is 1, C is 70. 1 times 70 gives us 70. So the number that's important to us is the 70. I'm looking for numbers this time because that is a minus. I'm looking for two numbers that subtract to be 3. So I'm going to put a plus 3 here. And it's plus 3n. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the 70 and I'm going to list all the factors. So I'm going to use this side right here, on the side of my paper, and I always start with 1. 2 and 35. I'm going to take 70 divided by 3. Doesn't go in evenly. 70 divided by 4 does not go in evenly. So I'm skipping anything until I find a whole number. All right, I know 70 can be divided by 5, and so it's going to be 5 and 14. 70 divided by 6, nope. 70 divided by 10 is 7, so we're going to say 7 and 10. 70 divided by 8, nope. 70 divided by 9, nope. And then I know that after 9 comes 10. And the 10 is already on the list, so that means I can stop here. These are all the numbers that multiply to be 70. But remember what I asked for. I'm asking for two numbers that when you multiply them give you 70, but when you subtract them give you 3. Okay? So if I say 70 minus 1, it gives me 69. If I do 35 minus 2, it gives me 33. 14 minus 5, 9. 10 minus 7 does give me 3. So I'm going to use these two numbers. Now remember, when I subtract, one of these numbers needs to be a positive, the other one needs to be a negative. So if you get confused on which one should get which, because remember, I need to pick my signs so I get a positive 3. So I know I'm using 7. I know I'm using 10. And they both have to have N. So that means I need to play around with this. So I'm going to show you what you can do on your calculator to play around with this. We know one needs to be positive, the other one needs to be negative. So I'm going to say positive 7 minus 10. It gives me the 3, but it gives me a negative 3. I can't use that. I have to have a positive 3. So let me switch them. Let's do a positive 10 minus 7, which makes it a negative 7, and this does give me a positive 3. So I'm going to ask you to add a plus sign to the 10 and a minus sign to the 7. So we need a positive 10 minus 7. So I'm going to ask you to replace the 3, and order doesn't matter. If you want to put your 10 first and then your 7, it's okay. It works either way. So let me move this down. So we're going to bring down, let's go ahead and replace this. I'm just going to keep it in order, negative 7n plus 10n. I'm going to bring down the 1n squared in the front, and I'm going to bring down the minus 70. All right, now that I went from 3 terms to 4 terms, I should be able to factor by grouping. All right, I'm actually going to pause right here. We're going to do the next 2 examples together because notice that these actually have numbers other than 1 in the front. So I want to make sure that you know how to do this, and so you can see it a couple more times so you can kind of see what we're doing here. So I hope these 2 examples have helped, and I'll see you in the next videos.